Say it with me. The A's are the best team in baseball this July.
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
These are the good times, A's fans, and welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. You talk about the best team in baseball this month, the Oakland A's. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my sixth full season here as a host at the Locked On Podcast Network. Normally, I'm the host of Locked On MLB. I'm still the host of Locked On MLB, doing 5 of those a week. I'm also doing 5 here a week here at Locked On A's. Follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter or whatever the hell it's called now, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And hey, if you're listening to us every day, you want to post on one of those social media sites, be sure to use that hashtag Everyday A's. We have an idea of who is following us every single day. Let's go to a little bit of business here. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends that I truthfully use at Booking.com, or as I like to call them, Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even in Anaheim. Check out Booking.com and book your stay today. So, you think there's hyperbole in me saying that the A's are the best team in baseball in the month of July? Well, the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. What is the A's record in the month of July? They are 3-0. 3-0. Now, the Cincinnati Reds are also 3-0. The Boston Red Sox are also 3-0. It's 1975 all over again, where you have the Red Sox, A's, and Reds. Hell, it's 1990 all over again with the Red Sox, A's, and Reds. But here's the difference. The Red Sox have outscored their opponents 21-10. The Reds have outscored their opponents 16-10. And the A's have outscored their opponents 17-5. That is, if I'm going to baseballreference.com, the single greatest website in the history of the planet Earth, I'm going to use the Pythagorean win-loss percentage, which is the value. The value is an estimate of the team's win-loss percentage based upon runs scored and runs allowed. And the A's are running away with it with a 904 Pythagorean win-loss. No other team is even 800. Show me a better team in the month of July than your Oakland A's. You can't. The numbers don't lie. And how did they do? Right after Joey Estes went the distance, the Angels lost game 1, 7-5 to the A's. Miller didn't look great, but they held on to win. Boom. And my TA Jessica got a pin. So Estes throws a complete game victory on the 3rd of July. On the 4th of July, Sears went 5 and allowed only 2 hits, and he struck out 6. And wait, how many pitches did Sears throw? Sears threw 95 pitches. So he threw almost as many. He threw basically the same number of pitches in 5 innings that Estes did in 9. There's a lot to be said about not striking out, everybody. There's a lot to be said about getting those ground outs. But hey, Beto came out, threw an inning. Adams threw an inning. Ursak threw an inning. Ferguson came out through an inning. No need to burn through Mason Miller. And the deal, the A's, they won 5-0. The big offensive star was Rooker. No surprise there. He got on base 3 times. There was also a big home run by Butler. But here's the deal. Bleday twice was completely robbed by Pilar, the center fielder for the Angels. Pilar put on an old-fashioned ESPN Sports Center highlight reel in center field, stealing a home run at one point, stealing a double. Got to tip your hat to him. He made one of the great plays of the year. But the A's bats, so while the final score was 5-0, it probably could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse, but let me tell you something here. Yes, is there a little bit of hyperbole here? Of course there is. Of course there is. But let me tell you a couple of things here where there is no hyperbole on my position right now. We have to find our pockets of fun this year. I don't know if you noticed this, but this A's team's probably not going to go to the World Series. You know what? I may go to FanDuel and bet on that. However, we're going to have every once in a while a pocket here, a pocket there where it's going to be fun to see the A's play. And when those happen, especially after the grotesque month of June that we all had to endure, the calendar page flipped and they swept the Angels. Remember they got swept by the freaking Angels? Remember how they went on that grotesque road trip where they couldn't win a single game? Remember when the idea of even having a lead was a sort of weird foreign concept? So when the A's go on a 3-game winning streak and sweep the rivals that you and I and we all hoped the A's could finish ahead of the Angels, just as a marvelous middle finger to them. And I could say that in an A's podcast. At this point, when games like this happen, you got to enjoy them. You got to revel in it. You got to have some fun. And the other thing, though, which is beyond hyperbole and why I feel especially happy, beyond the fact it was against the Angels, and that's great. But did you notice something in the 3-game sweep of the Angels? The Angels, there was a couple points, Pillar's defense notwithstanding, there was a couple parts of the 3-game sweep where the Angels didn't look like their head was in the game. Being lackadaisical, one point overrunning balls, another point being sloppy. Sloppy. The Angels, with their great, they had great defense from Pillar, but Ward made a fielding error, and the starting pitching. Contreras did not look good yesterday, and he let up 3 runs, 2 of them earned in 2 2/3 innings, and it could have been worse because Pillar brought back the home run. Who knew that Hunter Strickland was still cashing a check? I didn't. I thought he was long retired, former Giant. Their bullpen did not pitch that great. The A's had the big explosion in the 3rd inning with 3 runs, and that actually could have been worse too. But the A's were not outplayed. The A's played well on the field. The A's threw to the right base. The A's went 1st to 3rd on a hit. The A's had their heads in the game, and their relievers came in, made the right pitch. And this is something I stressed the other day, that the A's can be beaten by more talented teams, but they should never be beaten because a team is outplaying them, outthinking them, out-hustling them. There's no payroll required for that, and it was refreshing to see that with what happened in against Anaheim. And I'm sorry, I'm calling them that. I've lived a big chunk of my life in Southern California. They're not the Los Angeles Angels any more than the A's are the San Francisco A's. In fact, it would make more sense to call the A's the San Francisco A's than the Angels the Los Angeles Angels, just in terms of proximity. Hell, in terms of the drive, if you go from Dodger Stadium to Anaheim Stadium, or whatever the hell it's called now, I'm guessing it's going to take just around the same amount of time, especially with traffic, to go from Oakland to Sacramento. Certainly Oakland to Gilroy. Anyway, enough of Gilroy, enough of garlic. The A's played smart baseball. And it was almost as if, remember what that felt like? Remember what it felt like to drive in a run? Remember what it felt like to have a rally that didn't rely on solo homers? It's like kickstarting a car, starting a lawnmower. Maybe this sweep and the happiness and Stomper jumping around and playing celebration could lead to something positive. Remember how to do this. It's a great line from Bull Durham. Winning, I love winning. It's better than losing. Well, guess what's coming in now? The A's main purpose, besides providing Oakland fans one final summer, the A's main purpose for the rest of the 2024 season is to be an unexpected speed bump. And one of the first tests are coming into Oakland as Baltimore. All right, let's hear a little bit from our good friends at Booking.com, or as they can be called, Booking.yeah. Hey, let me tell you something. I went on a baseball trip recently, and it was a fabulous trip. I went to go see games in Buffalo, see the Bisons, in Syracuse, saw the Syracuse Mets, went all the way to Cooperstown, and went to the Baseball Hall of Fame. And at each place, I needed a place to stay. In Buffalo, I had a lovely hotel right in downtown Buffalo. Buffalo's a nice city. In Syracuse, nice, safe hotel right nearby the college. And in Cooperstown, a charming bed and breakfast, walking distance to the Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. Where did I get all those places? I got them from Booking.com, where you might just find your perfect stay no matter where you're going. Now, you can go through Booking.com. You can find the hotels that overlook stadiums, family-friendly resorts. Booking.com has so many choices across the United States for your summer travel this baseball season. The right stay can make you a fan in any city. From Oakland to Cooperstown, book today at Booking.com on the site or at the Booking.com app. Booking.com. What else could I say about it? I could say Booking.yeah. Hey, let's talk about our friends over at FanDuel. Now, this is no longer the peak time of sports because you don't have the hockey playoffs and the basketball playoffs and everything happen. You still have baseball. You have the Olympics pretty soon. And before you know, it's going to be football. And this summer, you're going to have all the best ways to put down your bets through FanDuel. FanDuel helps you keep your sports Jones going whenever you want. All you have to do is open the app, dream up bets anytime you're in the mood. FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everybody, every day, all summer long. Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel is an official betting partner of Major League Baseball. FanDuel. Let's have some sports. Hey, where is your hub for getting all your sports news, your sports takes, your sports opinions? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories in all of sports. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. All right, the games are starting this evening. And by the way, I like the fact that every team in baseball played on the 4th of July. I think every team, if we're up to me, and it's not, every team would have a doubleheader on Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day. I mean, right there, you can help shorten the season a little bit in terms of the calendar. But no team should ever have the 4th of July off, and I'm glad they didn't. And it was also interesting that you didn't have, they were all getaway games because it was Thursday. So you're going to see a lot of turnover in new series. But the Angels got swept in Oakland. Now they have to wake up and fly and play a day game in Chicago against the Cubs. Good luck, Angels. It's a shame if something bad happens. A bunch of games are going on, but the A's are going to be playing the Orioles. Now, we all know the Orioles are one of the best teams in baseball. We all know the Orioles are doing quite well. Thank you very much. They nearly pulled off a sweep in Seattle. They have Gunnar Henderson. They have their depth on their team is tremendous. And they have a tiny bit of a chip on their shoulder that caused them to put together the big trade they did in spring training with Milwaukee for Corbin Burns. But they won 100 games last year and got bounced badly in the postseason by the eventual World Series champion Texas Rangers. You look at this team. They're a team that is filled with young studs. Adley Rutschman, Ryan Mountcastle, Gunnar Henderson, Jorge Mateo, Jordan Westberg, Colton Cowser, Cedric Mullins, and Anthony Santander. Do you know what all of those players have in common, other than the fact that they're all productive players at the major league level? They all began the season, but younger than the age of 30. Every one of those players I just rattled off under the age of 30 when the season began. So is Corbin Burns. So is Grayson Rodriguez. So is Dean Kramer. So this is a young team that already has a 100-win season under their belt, but they're basically like, hey, enough of this we're just happy to be here nonsense. We want to actually win. We want to win and make Camden Yards a rocking place. And the last time the Orioles even played in a World Series was 1983. At least the A's have been in 3 since then. They've won 1 since then. So this is a team that is already putting a little bit of distance between them and the Yankees. And the Yankees, I don't know if you notice this, are in a free fall right now. And that's a shame. You hate to see it. But the Orioles wound up playing they haven't had a bad month yet. They had a night between March and April. They had 19 wins, 10 losses, 17-9 in May, 17-12 in June. Why am I bringing that up? And they're 2-1 in July, so not quite as good as the A's. I'm bringing that up because every team is due for a slump. Every team is due for a bad patch. Now, granted, the Orioles did have a very bad patch recently where they got swept by the Astros and they nearly got swept by Cleveland. Okay. But every team can have a moment or two where they regress a tiny bit, just a tiny bit. They're coming off of Seattle, very competitive series against Seattle, and they know they have some big games coming up, including eyeing a week from today, the Orioles and Yankees are doing a showdown. Here's what you hope can happen. You hope that the Orioles can look at the schedule and say, it's the A's. It's the A's. They're going to be a 100-loss team. We could beat them. We just beat Seattle. Our ship is righted. We just nearly swept the Rangers. Our ship is righted, and you got to catch them with their pants down this first game. This first game, Suarez is pitching for the Orioles. Harris is pitching for the A's. Harris has pitched pretty well. He had a bad game a lot, but he has shown he can pitch well. And the other thing is, you have Mason Miller, who hasn't pitched for a couple of days. He's rested and ready. And while they used a bunch of pitchers out of the bullpen the other day, there was not a lot of stressful innings. And you're starting to see maybe there's a tiny bit of, a little bit of momentum going with the lineup. Now, Albert Suarez is having a very good year for the Orioles. He has a good, solid ERA of 2.43. In his last bunch of starts, 6 shutout innings against Texas, 5 innings not so great against Houston, didn't pitch well against the Yankees, did pitch well against the Braves the start before that. But he tends to go 5 or 6 innings. But this is Suarez. This is not Max Scherzer in his prime. This is a 34-year-old journeyman who prior to this year hadn't pitched in the major league since 2017. This is someone who you would expect to be on the A's, a career minor leaguer who had a cup of coffee in 2016, 2017 with San Francisco, and he's now having a surprisingly effective couple of months with the Orioles. What I'm saying is, sometimes the Cinderella carriage turns back into a pumpkin. What I'm saying is, and you've seen this with the Yankee pitching staff like crazy. if you go off to a really great unexpected start, chances are you go back to being what you're expected to be. What I'm saying is, A's, jump on this guy. Harris, don't let up a dumb inning. A's, this is a guy who is he's a really nice story. It's a story that more people should know about. It's a fun story about a guy who's having his big moment later in life. But maybe show why he has been a minor leaguer for all these years. Get on him early. Jump on him early. It is critical for the A's to win this game. Win game one of this series against Baltimore. Put the Orioles on their heels. Make sure to use, if you need to use Harris for 2 innings, he's available. But it's get the early runs, jump on him fast, and then you have Medina versus Povich, which is a borderline coin toss in game 2. And then, because these are the A's, and the A's are unstoppable, you got Spence going against Rodriguez for the sweep. I'm optimistic. All right, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that I was watching the Braves-Giants game after the A's game yesterday, and there was a tiny bit of what could have been. All right. When I went on my baseball trip, yes, I needed to book hotel rooms, but I also needed to book myself some tickets, and that's where I use Game Time. If you're not using Game Time, let me tell you something. It is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, and it makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. You get killer last-minute deals, all-in prices and views from your seat with the lowest price guaranteed. I have my favorite places to sit, which is not the upper deck, not the field level. I like the second deck. And I like to be behind home plate, but just a little bit on the first baseline side. That's the view I like of the game. That's my favorite view of the game. And when I use Game Time, I can get the zone deals. I can say, hey, this is the zone I want to sit in, so give me the best deal. Boom. You get flash deals. You save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. And you get the seat view. You get a panoramic view of the seat in the app. So you get, yeah, that's a great view, because you don't want it to be a surprise. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, the lowest prices. Do you know what they are? I'll tell you what they are. They're guaranteed. Hey, this is a reminder that Locked On has created the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Now it's available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channel app. Locked On Sports Day is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channel app. Got a couple people in the live chat here. Gravity Fallout Pines, who's an Everyday A's listener, says, I love all the hits with runners in scoring positions these past few days. They didn't rely solely on the homer. Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you actually get rallies going and you get teams on their heel instead of just sit back and swinging from your heels trying to hit the home run. Jonathan Curran says, how about the pitching of the last 2 games? Joey with a Maddox, and last night was great. Yeah, and by the way, Joey has had a Maddox, which is a complete game with fewer than 100 pitches. Just shows you pitch to contact sometimes, and you rely on your defense, good things can happen. And it was a great use of the bullpen. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, this is what you hope to have happen. Come out, win that first game. Come on, you're the A's. You're the best team in baseball in the month of July. I was watching the Giants game after the A's game. The Giants wound up beating the Atlanta Braves. And Matt Olson was up there. And Matt Olson, of course, hit 54 home runs last year. He has 12 this year. He's not putting up the huge numbers he had last year. But, in his 3 years with Atlanta, in 2022, he had 34 home runs. Last year, he was a legit MVP candidate. He finished fourth in the MVP vote, led the league in home runs, runs batted in, and slugging percentage with the Atlanta Braves. And this year, he's got 12 home runs. He's probably got to go on a big rampage at one point. And I was remembering, said, like, geez, he was with the A's. And now he's with the Braves. And he's mainly going to be remembered for the Braves and probably will eventually win a World Series title with the Braves. And I remember thinking to myself, did the A's get hosed on that trade? I actually had to stop. Who did the A's get in that trade? And then I looked it up, and the A's got Ryan Cusick, who's in the minor leagues. They got Christian Pache, who was supposed to be a big stud outfielder and didn't work out. But the A's did get Joey Estes. And we can't sit here just a few days removed from Joey Estes throwing a complete game shot, make us all feel great and poo-poo his acquisition. And they also got Shea Langoliers. So, no, they're not going to equal Matt Olson, but they have Langoliers and they have Estes, and that's not bad. Those are two major leaguers. And so, looking back at that deal, you have to give them credit because they didn't just trade Olson and get piddly-poo for them. In that same game on the Giants side, hey, look at that. There's Matt Chapman, former Oakland A Gold Glover, former back-to-back top 10 MVP finishes in 2018 and 2019. Years the A's went to the playoffs. Remember when they were building that fun new nucleus in Oakland? They were going to be there for a long time. Of course you don't, because they broke them up the minute they asked for more than minimum wage. Now, in that deal, the A's sent Chapman packing to Toronto. And they have Kevin Smith, not the director of clerks, but it might as well have been, Kirby Snead, who's not part of the team, Zach Logue, and Gunnar Hoagland, who never played a game in the major leagues. That's a bust. That's a swing and a miss. If they could have got back the equivalent of Estes or Langoliers, not both, in that deal, then maybe, just maybe, the A's would be in a slightly different place than they're in right now. It reminds me of the deal. And earlier this week, we saw Chris Bassett play. And Chris Bassett, unless you forgot, was also an Oakland A's player. And he was dealt to the Mets, and they got JT Ginn. I don't know how to pronounce his name because he never played a game in the major leagues. And Adam Aller, who did play a handful of games, but was put on waivers and was picked up by the Mariners. He's now in the the Guardians organization. So they got nothing for Bassett, and they got nothing for Chapman. And one of the reasons why the A's are in this situation is, I've mentioned before, they've drafted horrifically. They've had great draft picks and swung and missed over and over again over the last couple of years. And here they had three terrific trade chips: Bassett, Chapman, and Olson. And they whiffed on two of them. They got Estes and Langoliers for Olson. Good job on that. If they had gotten a Langoliers, just a Langoliers in the Chapman trade and an Estes in the Bassett trade, this would be a different team. It's not all because of payroll. It's not all because of attendance and all this other crap. Sometimes it's the organization whiffed. They had great trade chips, and they got piddly-poo for two of them. You can't keep whiffing on the draft and whiffing on trading away your veterans. This is one reason why there is mistrust amongst A's fans, besides the fact that they're about to leave and basically be the baseball equivalent of the movie Nomadland. God bless you if you get that reference. But it's tough to embrace the ownership when they say, oh, we're going to make a deal for this. We're going to trade Mason Miller. What, for another Adam Aller deal? The same people are in charge who are whiffing on the trades and whiffing on the draft picks. By the way, good luck with that, Vegas. if you're expecting this organization to put a winning product on the field by the time they show up, and of course, they're going to be done finishing the stadium in Las Vegas in the year 2748. Just moments of wisdom. But do you know what? No more negativity. The A's are the best team in baseball for the month of July. Jonathan Curran, I would post your comment up, but it contains a swear word, and I don't want an MA rating on this. And we should all be swearing good swears because the A's are going to take on a quadruple A pitcher who had a good couple of months and show them you want to be in triple A, you got to face the A's. There's a single A, and we're going to beat you down. And let's see it happen today. So follow us on Locked On A's on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I am your pal Sully, but Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Cheering you on because there's no team in baseball in the month of July better than the A's. The numbers don't lie. This has been Locked On A's. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.